Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? It is Monday, May 15, 2023 at 10:04 a.m. I would like to welcome our committee members. We have Budget Committee Vice Chair Matt Wire with us. We have Committee Member Kia Aina, Committee Member Toba, and I would also like to welcome Council Member Tupola. Okay, so we don't have any members participating remotely by video conference, so I'll move forward. So pursuant to Section 92-3.7, the Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting, interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways: remotely and in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. 1 minute. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or on the phone will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For those who are joining us via telephone, I will identify you by your last 3 digits of your phone number. And when your phone number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. So please utilize the raise hand feature on Zoom to be called upon. Some friendly reminders and tips. Please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceedings on Olelo or online, please mute your television or computer at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once the remote testifiers have testified, I will proceed to in-person testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call vote unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. If we happen to have any other council members participating from outside of the council chambers, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audio-visual contact with that member and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. With that, we will ask if there is a council member online to please announce beforehand if they will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Next up, for written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. And as a courtesy, please silence or turn off all cell phones. Before we move forward to our agenda items, thank you. I want to thank all the council members, all the members of the body for working diligently on the increases or restorations to the budget. This is our CD2 deliberations, and the restorations or increases and reductions that have been made in the budget have been made carefully and have been considered carefully. I want to be clear that the intent is to not ever cut positions that are currently filled, and to simply reduce the department's vacant positions that have never been filled or have not been filled for a number of years. And these reductions do not mean that the departments are not going to be able to fill these positions due to the lack of funding. It's because they have the ability to draw from their own vacancy funds as well as the provision for vacant positions account. We know that the departments, and acknowledge and thank the departments for working hard to fill their vacant positions. However, as it is evidenced throughout the public and private sectors, there's a shortage of candidates to fill positions. Additionally, and as I have just mentioned, there are quite a number of positions in the city that, according to the positions for vacancy report, have never been filled. During this budget process, I also had to consider many community requests that have come from every single council member here. So thank you, members, for working with your communities that my colleagues and I have been receiving. These requests are very important for our residents, for their everyday quality of life. from fixing drainage issues to sidewalk repairs and additional park improvements. So once again, thank you, members, and those have also been considered, carefully considered as well. With that, I would like to move us to our first agenda item, which is Bill 16, 2023, CD1, which approves the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation operating budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024. I would like to direct you all to Council Communication 139, which is our budget communication for the proposed amendments for CD2. I'll let members get their worksheets out. Members, are there any questions relating to the proposed amendments for the CD2 for the operating, let me say that again, for the HART operating budget for the fiscal year? And members, we also have members from HART here available as well for any questions. Any questions? There's only one page. HART operating. Vice Chair Wire, any questions? Okay. All right. Any questions for the administration? Vice Chair Kiaina? No? Okay. Member Tolba? Okay. Councilmember Tupola? Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we'll move to the first and only worksheet item here. The chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 1 of the agenda. Oh, second page? Oh, excuse me, there's 2 pages. To save paper, even though there's plenty of paper already, there's 2 pages, excuse me, not 1 or 2. And I will read the amendments that's on the second page. So can I refer you to page 1 and 2? We're using double-sided paper here, guys. Okay, so page 2, I'm going to review the proviso. In addition to it, I'll read the full proviso. Section 6, the detailed statement of revenues and surplus contained in the executive operating program for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024, as transmitted to the council in the executive program and budget for the fiscal year 2024, volume 1, operating program and budget, and as amended in any executive operating program amendments, is hereby incorporated by reference and adopted as an integral part of this ordinance. Then it underlines, which adds, the detailed statement of revenues and surplus departmental communication 287 dated April 27, 2023, which concerns the Transit Fund, Federal Grants Fund, and the Transit Improvement Bond Fund for the Honolulu for Rapid Transportation, is hereby incorporated by reference and adopted as an integral part of this ordinance. It strikes out the and adds both detailed statements of revenue and surplus contained therein may be further amended regarding any applicable fund by any amendment to the Executive Operating Budget Ordinance, Executive Capital Budget Ordinance, Legislative Budget Ordinance, Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation Operating Budget Ordinance, or Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation Capital Budget Ordinance. In case of any conflict between the substantive provisions for the Executive Operating Program as transmitted and this ordinance or the above budget amendments, the provisions of this ordinance and any of the above budget amendments shall prevail. Members, that is for the proviso on page 2 of the HART operating budget for Bill 16, CD1, proposed amendments for CD2. Are there any questions by the members for page 1 and page 2? Okay, thank you, members. Any members have any questions for the HART? Okay, with that, we'll move towards remote testimony. Okay, we do not have any registered remote testifiers. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify on Bill 16, 2023 CD1 proposed CD2 amendments? Okay, thank you. There are no registered testifiers to speak in person. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify that is in the chamber? Seeing none, thank you, members. We are In discussion, are there any discussion, any other questions, last comments, questions for Hart before we move forward with this? Okay, once again, this is to accept the amendments on page 1 and the proviso on page 2 of the Hart operating budget. The chair, I would also like to welcome Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Thank you for being here. The chair recommends that Bill 16, 2023, CD1 be amended to a CD2 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today and makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? The bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 16, 2023, CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward, you have agenda item number 2, Bill 17. This is just one, yeah? Okay, this one page, let me just read it first. Bill 17, 2023, CD1, approving the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation capital budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024. With that, I would like to direct everyone's attention to Council Communications 140 for budget. It is the Hart Capital Budget Bill 17, 2023, CD1, proposed budget amendments for our CD2. There's no amendments for the mass transit. However, in the proviso, you will see amendments to Section 4. And I will review it and then I will make my recommendation. This amends Section 4 to add new language to incorporate Hart's most recent detailed statement of revenues and surplus, Departmental Communication 287, dated April 27, 2023, to read as follows. And please bear with me, I will read it all. Section 4, the detailed statement of revenues and surplus contained in the executive operating budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024, as transmitted to the council in the executive program and budget for the fiscal year 2021 for the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation is hereby incorporated by reference and adopted as an integral part of this ordinance. It strikes out the and adds both. Detailed statements of revenue and surplus contained therein may be further amendment regarding any applicable fund by any amendment to the Executive Operating Budget Ordinance, Executive Capital Budget Ordinance, Legislative Budget Ordinance, Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation Operating Budget Ordinance, or Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation Capital Budget Ordinance. In any case of any conflict between the substantive provisions of the Executive Operating Program as transmitted and this ordinance or the above budget amendments, the provisions of this ordinance and any of the above budget amendments shall prevail. Once again, there has been no amendments, no cuts, restorations, or anything to the mass transit, but this proviso. With that, I would like to ask if the members have any questions regarding the Hart Capital budget for Bill 17, anything for capital relating to Hart. Okay, we have Councilmember, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll defer, I guess, as to whether this would be better for MD's office or for Hart, but I just wanted to follow up. I appreciate that proviso includes the Waipahu Transit Center Station Makai entrance. I know the council passed resolution 2342 regarding the Pearl Highland stations. I don't know if there's any updates. We have talked to Department of Transportation Services, so just wanted to clarify if there's any new information on that. I see some head nods no, so I'm thinking no.
Can we have, I think that's the request is for Hart.
Yeah, and then also maybe just clarity, would DTS be the best point of contact for continued follow-up?
Yes, good morning, Chair and council members. Yes, council member, that would probably be better updated by DTS than Hart.
Okay, appreciate that.
Sure.
So it sounds like you're saying there's no need to have it allocated in the proviso or identified in the proviso because it'd probably be an after-the-fact type of project?
Yeah, are you talking about a pedestrian crossing or the parking garage?
So
the Waipahu?
I think all of it. I think what we had asked DTS at the resolution hearing was for all of the transportation options. And so I know for them, they'll be bringing back hopefully specifics on what the bus routes could look like.
Yes, yes.
Potential plans for housing that would, I guess, make the parking more economically feasible. And then,
Yes.
of course, the pedestrian pathway or
Absolutely.
crossway
Absolutely.
because of the
Yes.
safety issues.
Yes, 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 correct. So we're working with, hand in hand with DTS on that. But they would be they're taking the lead on that one.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. No further questions,
Okay,
Mahalo,
thank you.
Director. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. And Committee Vice Chair Wire, we'll make that note when we have DTS up, and we'll ask in which division we can have it in. Okay?
Awesome. Appreciate that, Mahalo.
I'll note that. Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Hart or them? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. Aloha, Executive Director. Thanks for
Morning.
being with us. Just real quick on the reference communication. So I'm talking about communication 287 dated April 27, 2023. So everything looks about the same from 22 to FY 2023 to FY 2024, except the transit fund total.
Yes.
Can you just explain that real quick and brief because it's so different than the other 2
Right.
years?
Right. Brent, did you want to respond to that? The transit fund. What, that one change that you made on the 400, yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
that
that's our
one.
cash balance. That's
You need it.
because, oh.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, Brent Lewis, Deputy Director of Budget and Finance. If you're referring to the unreserved fund balance,
Yeah, so the total transit fund on the very bottom line of the first table, it has the FY 2022 actual 718 million. Then for FY 2023 estimated, it's 448 million. Then for the 2024, it goes back up and over to the 873 million. So I just wanted to know the difference in the 2023 because it's so drastic. If you could just briefly explain that.
sure. Well, we are expecting in fiscal '24 FFGA funds plus an additional $64 million from the Senator Schatz appropriation. So with the increase in GT, TAT plus the additional funding, we expect more cash plus with procurement major procurements occurring in '24, the costs related to that will either hit the end of fiscal '24, but most likely fiscal '25.
So you're saying that the number that's going down is because we're going to be spending down more in that year for actual construction, but then you're also saying that the FY 2024 is budgeting in those expected federal funds to come in? Is that why it's a lot higher?
That's correct. Although I wouldn't say that costs are going down necessarily. I would say that they're not increasing significantly until '25.
I guess my first statement about the FY 2023 is because I know there's a time period where, you know, you guys are more into construction and spending money as opposed to it sitting in the account. So that's why I made that comment. Is that why the funds in FY 2023 estimated are so low?
Yes.
It is. Okay. Those are my questions. I do know, Executive Director, you told me that. Just looking at it on paper, though, it's a really huge difference. But, you know, spending down the funds means that more is coming up and more is moving along. So thank you both. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Tupola. Members, any question for the capital budget for Hart? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, we will now proceed with remote testifiers. We do not have any registered testifiers for Bill 17, CD1, proposed CD2. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none. Members, we do not have any registered in-person testifiers. Is there anyone in the council chambers who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none. Members, we are back in discussion. Members, any discussion regarding this? Okay, and if there's anything also relating to rail as it relates to operating and maintenance, please reserve. We can bring that up when we get to that page in the Bill 11. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving forward. No further discussion. The chair recommends that Bill 17, 2023, CD1 be amended to a CD2 that incorporates the changes described during the discussion today and makes any technical and non-substantive amendments that may be necessary. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? The bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 17, 2023 CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, moving forward. We have Bill 14, 2023, which is 2023, which alleviates the tax burden on homeowners from escalating real property valuations. Members, we also have a proposed posted CD1 of OCS 2023-0990/4/11/2023 at 2:12 p.m. submitted by Councilmember Wire. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. Although I would like to allow the committee vice chair to describe any of his amendments. Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Essentially, it was just extending the applicability to include those at the lower end of the real property tax payment. And I did have a chance to speak with Director Kawano. And so happy to discuss it as a committee, but otherwise would be requesting to withdraw the CD. Yeah, but happy to have the discussion, and maybe I'll leave it to that and then have him kind of explain.
Actually, yeah, we can bring that up. Director Kawano? This is a good opportunity to bring this up. Thank
Okay,
you.
appreciate that.
Okay.
And sorry for the delay in that. I just spoke with him briefly. So if I may, I'll just ask Director Kwano to kind of walk through what we discussed.
Yes, thank you, Budget Chair Cordero, Council members, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. We had a discussion last week. Budget Vice Chair Wire and I talked about the removal of the minimum tax or the ignorance of the minimum tax with regard to Bill 14. And the administration opposes that because we believe that everyone should pay some tax. You know, everyone receives services. We've had the $300 minimum tax in place for years. And if we completely take it away, all homeowners with homeowner exemptions that, for instance, have the historical preservation benefit would also not pay minimum tax the way it's written. And that's concerning because we're not really targeting the right group of taxpayers when we do that. So we ask that, that be removed. Budget Vice Chair Wire mentioned that he would consider withdrawing, which he just stated this morning, and we really appreciate it because we think Bill 14, as proposed by the mayor, should be kept as is.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, continue, Committee Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And mahalo for that, Director, for laying out how it affects everyone across the board. And so I think part of the conversation we can look at it is, I know there's another bill pending that has impacts to the minimum payment that folks have to pay. And so I'd entertain or welcome conversation about how we can structure that so we're not necessarily raising that minimum payment for folks that would be burdened by it, but still, realizing that there may be other homeowners that have the capacity to pay more. So I'll just say that. Mahalo, Chair.
Understood. Thank you very much. Okay, Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Director Kawano, I know that during discussions in the permitted interaction group on RPT, we've talked about increasing it, and I would prefer to increase this one-time credit to at least $350 or $400. Do you have a position on any of those amounts?
As you go higher, I get a little trepidation because, as we mentioned earlier, every $100 is $15.5 million that we're going to have to find to fund, in terms of increasing the credit. So I understand that testifiers in the past, public testifiers, have asked for more, but we feel comfortable with the $300, and the revenue reduction for that is $45.5 million.
Okay, just to clarify, the $350 would cost how much, and how much for $400?
350 would cost about somewhere between $7.5 and $8 million. And a full $100 more would cost about $15.5 million.
Okay, thank you. Chair, as we continue on the permitted interaction group, I hope that we can still have a dialogue as this bill moves through the process with regard to potential increase.
Okay, thank you. I'll make my recommendation in a bit, as we don't have any other, what's it called? Proposed committee drafts. So I'll make my recommendation.
okay.
After we have this discussion, I'll allow for questions, and then
Okay.
I'll speak.
And I also want to say, alternatively, I would also support providing one-time credits for owners that rent homes valued at less than $1.3 million for at least 12 months. While I appreciate how it may be challenging to administer by BFS, I would challenge us to think about allowing self-certification and auditing submissions. We have successfully implemented a massive rental relief program that has already approved over $215 million in relief. I believe we can apply a lot of what we have learned to implement that program into a long-term rental one-time property tax credit. Just my manao. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Members, any other discussion? Okay, Chair would like to state that, first off, this is why we got to get rid of sunshine law. Next up, I also think that we need to allow for proper discussion and allow for such numbers to be provided in written response by the administration. And I would like to take this up. I would recommend that I will postpone this until the next committee, regular committee on budget, so that we can have the ability for proposed budget amendments that are written and proposed for us to consider. So I will, my recommendation will be to postpone this to the next regular committee on budget.
I support that recommendation.
Thank you, members. I will be doing that, but I will also be taking up, we're still in discussion, but then we will taking up testimony, as we still have this agenda on the agenda. And we will then move forward to discussion. I'll make my motion again then. And I look forward to your consideration of the postponement of this bill. Okay? All right. Thank you. Members, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any questions for the administrations regarding this bill? Thank you both, for everyone, for your discussion on this. All right, we will now proceed with remote testifiers. We don't have any registered remote testifiers. However, I do see Ms. Iwasa online here. Ms. Iwasa, please proceed.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I didn't register for this, but I just wanted to express my support for the postponement, and then also for the comments made by Councilmember Kia Aina. As you know, I support having the credit go to long-term renters or to their landlords, who then that would help mitigate the risk that they would increase rents for their tenants. So I very much support that. And I ask you to take a look at, if you haven't already, the line item for FICA, the Social Security tax, because that tends to be over budgeted. That might be an area for savings. And then also, when you're discussing the taxes with the city, what are they doing to make sure that people are classified correctly and getting the correct exemptions? Because I've seen some that still have homeowners exemptions that are renting out their properties. So thank you so much for allowing me to testify.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify online? Okay. Seeing none, is there anyone in, we don't have any registered testifiers in the chamber, but is there anyone else who wishes to testify in the council chamber? Okay, seeing none. Members, I will have to take a quick recess regarding this due to budgeting. Okay, recess subject to the order of the chair. Chair would like to call the Committee on Budget back to order. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us this discussion. I would like to thank Council Vice Chair Kia Aina for her discussion regarding consideration of more than the $300. It would be great that we could, if I could ask the Council Vice Chair to discuss this and provide it as amendments. I do want to share that because our budget, Bill 14 has been already incorporated into the budget bills as well. We will, to pass out the rest of the budget bills for consideration, it is important that we also continue to pass out Bill 14. And if there are amendments, and any amendments to Bill 14, and also it will be incorporated into budget bills 11 and 12, it will have to be done for a fuller draft. So with that, members, are there any questions? We're still in discussion. Any discussion about?
Some comments,
Yes.
Chair. So in light of your comments, I guess my recommendation would be a FD1 when this bill comes to full council, and I would be recommending a $50 increase to $350.
Okay, thank you. Please work with the respective city agencies so that we can make that proposal.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Members, we're still in discussion. Okay, once again, I would like to state that not once again, moving forward, the chair recommends that Bill 14, 2023 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward, we have Resolution 23-33. It determines the respective rates at which real property in the various general classes in the city and county of Honolulu, which shall be taxed per $1,000 of assessed value for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024. Members, this is relating to the real property rates for the city, which there is no difference from the last, I think, year or two. So, or three, I should say. Members, we are now in discussion regarding the tax rates. Okay, any discussion? We can also call upon the city administration. Any member wishes to call upon the city administration for this matter? Okay, we have Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question for Director Kawano. And just wanted to clarify, so I know we're voting on the rates for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, and then we're doing the permitted interaction group conversation about, potential tax reform. What is that timeline? So when would those bills potentially take effect?
Thank you, Councilmember Wara. Good question. I would think that at the very, very earliest, the bills would go in effect after our permitted interaction group discussion, probably FY25 or FY26. FY25 at the earliest. Yeah.
Okay, appreciate that. And so then my understanding is that any rates that apply to that new framework would be in a resolution about this time next year.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, along with any changes in classes. I just want to state that as we amend and change our real property tax structure and laws, that we think about staffing, because it will require work, and also to some extent it could require development time as well by Tyler Technologies. So that platform is used for real property tax valuation.
Appreciate that
And
insight.
collections as well.
Okay.
Billing and collection, yeah.
Mahalo, Director. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Any other questions relating to real property tax rates? Okay, and speaking of Director Kawano, thank you for bringing up Tyler Technology, is that what you call it? So with the Tyler Technology, does that, do we have to procure or go out for bid for Tyler Technology every year?
No, we have a contract with them, so it's not every year. I'm not sure where we are right now, but I think we're on in a current term, and yeah, we don't procure each year.
Okay, that's great. And as it relates to the rates, as you mentioned staffing in support of any real property tax changes or changes to just real property tax. Will you be considering that as we move forward into the next fiscal year?
Yeah, and definitely. A good example is, we just talked about tax relief for long-term renters. So that's very different from what we have now. I know Maui County has that, but we're going to need staff to review. I don't necessarily agree that you can do everything by affidavit or declaration. I believe you have to look at documents, and I think even for ERA, emergency rental assistance, there was declaration signed by the applicant, but they still provided documentation, and lots of documentation was reviewed by the nonprofits that administered the program, and they substantially, as you've heard, increased their staff to run that program. So it's we need to, as we go through tax law changes, we have to think about the impact to operations and make sure we have operations funded so we do it correctly.
Understood. Thank you. And I personally definitely support that, providing so that we can make those changes. Okay, members, any other questions for real property tax rates? I know that we kind of ventured out into the operations of it, but this helps. Okay, any questions? Anything? Anything? Nope. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Director Kawano. Okay, we will now proceed with remote testifiers. We have Natalie Iwasa.
Thank you, Chair. Natalie Iwasa for the record. So I oppose the resolution because the rate for residential A properties is just simply outrageous. And given the comments on Bill 14 that you had to pass it out, and it sounds like there may not be an amendment to assist landlords of long-term renters, I am especially concerned. And I wish I had more time, but I know that quite a lot of landlords have had multi-year increases, of double-digit increases in their real property taxes. And we've also seen the homeless point-in-time counts increase. So I'm just very concerned that some people are going to their homes because landlords can't sustain increase after increase after increase. They are going to be increasing their rents, and that's going to put pressure on the market. So I just ask you to do all that you can this year to mitigate that risk and reduce that first level tier of tax for residential A. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Iwasa. Any questions? Okay, Natalie, we have two questions. We have questions from two members. First off, okay. Okay, all right. They're trying to deliberate. Brazil will go first. We have Council Chair Waters, and then we'll have Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Good morning, Natalie. Tommy here. Hey, I just want to let you know that we're working on two things in the permitted interaction group with regard to trying to find some relief for renters. One is actually amending the tiers for residential A, and the second is to try to give some money back of a one-time tax credit for folks who are renting, who own property under $1.3 million, as Vice Chair Kiaina mentioned. Those two things, as well as some others, we're discussing in the permitted interaction group, which wouldn't go into effect this year. It would have to go into effect the following year. But just want to let you know that we are thinking about this, and we really, really hope to find long-term tax relief. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. And mahalo, Ms. Iwasa, for your participation, and hope that you'll be in the meeting tomorrow as well for the permitted interaction group. I just wanted to ask quick questions about when you're talking about the, I guess, the outrageous rate, is it specifically like the tier 2, the 1050, or the 450, or is the tier 2 too low, or sounds like you're specifically talking about needing to have a lower rate for folks that are actually renting out those units. Do you have anything you can add onto those points?
Yeah, so initially, if right when that threshold is met, when you go from 999,000 to a million or 1,000,001, that's already a 29% increase from the prior year. And it's because the rate goes from 350 to 450. So, you know, if you could even reduce that to $4, that would be helpful, because there are 9,000 properties that will be impacted by that increase. And, you know, we're talking almost 30,000 properties now. When residential A was first put into place, it was like 7,200. So you're impacting every year, more and more people are being impacted by this. So I hope that answers your question. To reduce that first tier, of course, 1050 I think is simply outrageous as well, but I don't expect you to change that at this time.
No, that does answer my question, Mahalo. So just wanted to clarify. So it sounds like you're saying that the focus should be the relief for those that are actually being rented versus empty homes. Is that correct, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, mahalo for that. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, members. Is there anyone else online who wishes to testify? Seeing none, members, we are moving to in-person testimony. We don't have any in-person registered testifiers. Is there anyone else in person who wishes to testify? Okay, seeing none, members, we are in discussion relating to Resolution 23-33. Any questions or discussion? We also, once again, have our city administration with us. Members can call upon them. Okay, I'll call up upon the city administration. I don't know who to call up, maybe Director Kawano, relating to real property tax. Director Kawano, with such considerations of changing certain rates, of course, there has to be revenue that is made up in other classifications. Has that been discussed for future fiscal years by the administration?
We have not discussed impacting rates up or down, but I understand that we may have discussion in the permitted interaction group.
Okay, thank you very much. And knowing that what we talk about in this fiscal year will not take effect until next fiscal year, right? Okay.
Earliest, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Members, any other?
I'm sorry, not this
next.
fiscal year is 23.
Oh, yes, I meant
We're
25.
talking about FY25, yes.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
I should have been more
Yes.
clear. Yeah, 25, excuse me. Okay, members, any other questions? Okay, Council Chair Waters.
Thank you, Director. Good morning. Just out of curiosity, if we were to do what Natalie Wasa is suggesting, changing the Tier 1 from $4.50 down to $4, what kind of fiscal impact would that have? What kind of money are we talking about?
Need my calculator. So I think, so we have 30,000 taxpayers in Rese, right? So my thinking is that all 30,000 would cause the fiscal impact. So we'd have to go through the math. It's kind of hard because some of them are obviously also paying 1050. So some of them are above, have assessed valuations above, $1 million, and they're paying 450 up to the million, and then the million and over, they're paying 1050. So I think we got to do the calculation. It's kind of tricky.
Yeah, no, exactly.
We got to stratify.
That's the kind of numbers we need to know if we're going to make these changes, right? We can't just do it blindly. And that's something that we are talking about in the permitted interaction group. So just that to let the folks watching at home know that we are looking at this and other ways to save people money. But in order to do that, we actually have to know what kind of impact it will have to do it responsibly. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, we're still in discussion. Any questions? Thank you, Director Kawano.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, Chair recommends that Resolution 23-33 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving forward. All right, is everyone okay before we move into operating? Any need for like 5-minute break? Yeah, okay. Chair recommend, recess subject to order, call the chair. Chair would like to call the Committee on Budget back to order. It is 11:04 a.m. I would also like to welcome Councilmember Say, committee member Say. Okay, members, we are moving into the Executive Operating Budget, Bill 11, 2023, CD1, the proposed amendments for CD2. Okay, so we will be taking it up page by page. And members, I'll ask after each page if there's any questions, and then we'll move forward on that with that. And questions can be for the chair or for any questions for the administration, as we have received numerous communications from the administration relating to the budget and the information that we have requested. So thank you, members, for making those requests and reviewing those responses. Okay, with that, we'll move forward on page 1, which includes the mayor and the managing director. So under the mayor, we have the administration contingency fund as well as city management. Chair recommends to accept the recommendations listed on page 1. Members, are there any questions for mayor, administration, contingency fund, and then the first page of city management under managing director?
Yes.
Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Chair, and this would go for the whole page, correct?
Yes,
So
for the whole page,
I have some,
page 1.
want to make some remarks and questions for the Office of Economic Revitalization. Then I just have some comments on the Liquor Commission, so I would deal with the OER first.
Okay, hold on one moment. Let me check where they are.
This is Bill 11, correct?
Yes, Bill 11, hold on one moment.
It's on the first page.
Okay, first page, yes. Okay, first page, go ahead.
Both salaries as well as current expenses. And then, of course, Liquor Commission is item number 2. So item number 1 is salary. So first of all, let me just say, I wanted to express my support for the Office of Economic Revitalization. Established by Charter Amendment in 2020, the office was immediately tasked with the coordination of COVID-19 economic assistance. And in the long term, the office would oversee strategy for economic development in the city and county of Honolulu, taking the lead in the city to deal with issues such as sustainable agriculture, regenerative tourism, and renewable energy. OER also serves as a community liaison, with the office communicating with the community regarding economic strategy, key projects and programs, and building trust with these communities to facilitate adoption of new economic models. And since its creation, OER has been able to foster several programs that help assist local families, businesses, and the greater Honolulu community. And I've been supportive of their efforts. For example, their successful facilitation of the city's rental utility and relief program has helped countless Oahu families by approving $281 million, $414,157 in relief to be used to rent and utility payments, and the agricultural grants program, which OER has helped to facilitate and is preparing for another round of funding, helping local farmers to continue the supply of fresh produce in our local economy after the COVID-19 pandemic. Recently, the council also appointed 9 members of the Economic Revitalization Commission who will offer guidance for the city to best assist Honolulu businesses. So my questions first on the salary part for OER or the Deputy Managing Director, both with regard to the administration specialist and Planner 5. Is the administration specialist the main support admin for the director and deputy, and how is the admin specialist currently funded?
Good morning, Krishna Jaya. I'm Deputy Managing Director. Before I start, I did want to thank the budget chair, her staff in particular, as well as council members, your staff, and OCS for all the hard work that has gone in to date on this item. I will turn it over to Amy Asobe to answer your questions, Vice Chair Kiaina. I do want to note that there is a recommendation to restore positions for admin of 2 positions, and we would ask the committee to follow that recommendation. But I will turn it over to Amy for those specific questions.
Thank you, Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Kia Aina. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about OER salaries and our budget request for this year. With the addition of Chair Cordero's amendments, the Office of Economic Revitalization requests an additional $144,848. And as noted, this additional funding would be utilized to fund both Planner 5, our Small Business and Finance Program Manager, as well as the administrative specialist position. This administrative specialist actually works with our program management team. And so I process maybe 6 invoices and other forms today to move forward payments for both the rent and utility relief program, the ag grants program, as well as Oahu business recovery. So this position works on contracts both through the regular process as well as through Honolulu grants for SLFRF funds. She supports the applications that we put in, 4 of them so far in the last 2 months, are for competitive funding that we're applying for to the federal government and private organizations. So this position, as noted, supports 15 staff in the execution of program procurement, program activities, program reporting, and systems management. Yes, they do support, this person does support myself and the deputy, but that's primarily around, again, our program development, grant application submittals, reporting, and file management. I hope that helps to answer your question.
With regard to that job, tell us a little bit more about the Planner 5.
Thank you. The Planner 5 is one of our really important program management team members. This person is really doing the foundation building, the first work really that we've been establishing in the city for the first time around economic development. And we really see our focus is on small business. Our partner agency at the state, the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, is a little bit more focused on manufacturing, exporting, high tech. And so we see our niche in this area of small business. But the finance part is also very important. How do we work with the Economic Development Administration, the Small Business Administration, other federal economic development organizations supporting entrepreneurs, as well as our local financial institutions, banks, credit unions, CDFIs, et cetera, and some of the micro lenders like CNHA, like Pacific Gateway, that are doing really small micro loans and lending for our small businesses. This person also works with the city, other city agencies, the state and the federal government, small businesses, and as I mentioned, the finance industry, as well as related nonprofits in the community. They're responsible for developing, implementing, and reporting on all policies, programs, and activities related to strengthening our small business ecosystem on this island. For example, Oahu business recovery grants that are out on the street today are administered by this position. I'm happy to say since the portal reopened at 8 a.m., we've had over 250 new applicants to the program. So thank you, council members, for your support in getting the word out through social media and your networks. We're also looking more closely at how we can utilize vacant city properties and spaces for business incubation, creating a revolving small business loan fund or community development loan fund with, of course, community partners like financial institutions, including CDFIs. So I thank you for your consideration and understand the big picture that this staff position is responsible for.
And because you still are short for current expenses, can you just please elaborate on the need for a business constituent educator as well as the resource network?
Sure. So we feel that this team is critical, the business and constituent educators, for our day-to-day understanding of what's going on with small businesses. Not only do they have annual events like the Small Business Fair that they support with the SBA, but every single day, one of those 4 or 2, depending on their schedule, are out on the street meeting with businesses in your districts I hope you've seen their reports that come in monthly about what they're learning, who they're talking to. This ongoing outreach has helped us to understand that the primary issue with small business today is access to capital. So that's both loans, grants, and any other kind of funding, family, friends, et cetera, and teaching them how to be able to get that, to thrive in the long run, not just to start up. Additionally, we know they're having a lot of issues with the supply chain today, as well as hiring. And so on the hiring in particular, we've been able to connect them internally in the city to HireNet and other city resources to help with jobs and getting people on board. But generally, they are a critical part of us understanding. You know, the commission is our long-term advisory, but on the day-to-day basis, this team is the one that's going out, connecting and speaking with businesses, not only to share information for their support, but also to receive information on how we could help them. The Business Resource Network, and we're looking for a good name for that as we're nearing to stand it up, will be an online platform that helps businesses to connect with at least 85 of the business support organizations that we've identified on this island. So that's anyone from law firms that help people to establish an LLC, to accounting firms, to the Patsy Team Inc. Women's Business Center, the Veterans Business Center, the Small Business Development Center. It's really that network that has not yet existed on this island or in the state of Hawaii to direct people to get the help they need to either start up or sustain their business. And one last point of information on the Business Resource Network is as the state starts rolling out the State Small Business Credit Initiative, this $60+ million initiative relies partially on the city as a technical assistance provider. And so we believe that this Small Business Resource Network is critical to that technical assistance. We'll be receiving a small amount of funding from the EDA to help administer the technical assistance for the State Small Business Credit Initiative.
Do you believe that, how do you rate every dollar invested in OER and the rate of return on that dollar?
Well, we have just hired in March our data strategist, so we can actually give you a hard figure on that. And I would love to be able to say every single dollar, our mission from day one has been to leverage private resources to add to the dollars that the city is putting towards the economic development strategy that we're implementing.
So you believe it's worth the investment?
Absolutely.
Chair, I know that others have questions before I talk about the Liquor Commission, but I appreciate your reinstatement of some of the funding requests during the CD1, but I would have us consider reinstating $144,848 for salaries and $195,000 for current expenses for the Office of Economic Revitalization. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Council Vice Chair, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I had a quick question about the ombudsman position. So I don't know if someone else would like to speak to that, but I know that the department or the city's response was declining that position. I just wanted to find out, I guess, if there's another division that it would be appropriate in, or if there are other avenues for complaints to be investigated possibly at the city.
So, Council Member, that was an addition made by Vice Chair Kiaina, and this is a discussion that she and I have been having for a while now. We do recognize that there is a need for this investigative capacity. Whether it's internal or external is something we're still trying to work through. We just did a RFQ for an outside investigator for liquor, so we're trying to better understand the capacity out there and the costs, and also the other issue that we are also trying to work through is whether it should be in MDO or BFS or what have you. So those are all discussions we're having internally. We're on the same page in terms of the need for this sort of investigative ability, but those are sort of the open items right now.
I appreciate that. Could you just maybe elaborate on the specific types of things that would be investigated? And I only ask because I know like fair housing would go to the fair housing office, like EDA non-compliance or a limited English proficiency discrimination would go to the EO program. We have other entities. So I'm just curious, like what role this position would play if it's placed somewhere.
Yeah, thank you for that question. We do have a variety of investigative abilities within the city. So EEO, for example, as you noted, routine workplace things, DHR can handle, the departments can handle. Ethics issues go to Ethics Commission. This is non-ethics, maybe more sophisticated investigations that aren't well suited for the departments to handle. That's sort of the thought on this. I would defer to Vice Chair whether that matches her thoughts, but that's how we're approaching it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Council, oh wait, before I move on to Council Vice Chair Kiana, anyone else on page 1? Page 1. Okay, before I move to Council Vice Chair Kiana, I just want to ask relating, my question relating to vacancy funds. Currently in the salaries for FY24, there's $720,000 in vacancy funds for under city management. Are those able to cover any positions?
If you'll bear with me, Chair. So, Councilmember, it seems that the $720,000 refers to positions that are vacant because we're currently using FRF funds as we transition them towards general funds. So we would still hope to transition these individuals.
Okay, and that will be in the next fiscal year, yeah?
That would be in the fiscal year, the coming fiscal year.
Okay, so you're hoping to have 720,276, but why wouldn't they be in this current budget to transition already?
Our transition plan for folks who are on FRF, we plan to transition roughly half of them this year, and we'll be coming back to the council roughly half of them for the next fiscal year after that. So we didn't want to come in 2 years with a massive number.
Understood, thank you. Members, any other questions? Council Vice Chair Kia Aina. On page 1.
Thank you, Chair. I will defer my comments to the Liquor Commission during the section for Budget and Fiscal Services. As you know, I offered a CD2 for salaries for a citywide ombudsman in BFS using general funds. I took to heart your concern about the narrow constraint of an ombudsman, specifically for the Liquor Commission and using Liquor Commission funds. And so Council Vice Chair Wire, I do support this effort, and I will talk further about the CD2 providing for such an ombudsman in the section for Budget and Fiscal Services. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Any questions for page 1 before Chair makes her recommendation again? Okay. In light of the discussion that we had earlier today with needing to find funds for possible deliberation to increase Bill 14 and other such things, Chair will stand on her recommendation to accept the amendments that's on page 1. Any questions? Okay. Moving to page 2. We have City Management, Culture and the Arts, and Office of Housing. Members, we have some we have some amendments here on page 2 and increases to the city budget for Culture and Arts and Office of Housing. Members, any questions? Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 2.
Vice Chair, apologies, Chair, if I may make a comment on one of the items.
Sorry, hold on one moment. Members, any questions for page 2, for the city administration or myself?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I was gonna.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Tupola, then Council Vice Chair Kia Aina, then, yeah.
Real quick, Chair. So my question was in regards to Office of Housing, but I think it's on page 3, just the top. It's kind of sort of related, but not really, the increase for funding of current expenses. Do you want me to wait till?
Yes, can you wait for page 3, please? Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Council Vice Chair Kia-Aina.
To the Managing Director's office, with regard to the allocation for the Honolulu Youth Commission, do you believe that $5,000 would be sufficient for them to, I know it's 50% of what they asked for. What's your thoughts?
You know, Vice Chair, we've been working very closely with the Youth Commission. They've been very engaged. They've been coming to the town halls. They're excited. They want to get out in the community. They want to do a lot with the community. The 10,000 was the request from the Youth Commission, and we were pleased, Vice Chair, when you put in that item, and we would support keeping it at 10,000 if that's what the committee felt was appropriate.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge, as the chair has been saying, that in trying to balance the budget, every dollar increase has to be accounted for, and we did get this during the later stages during the budget, so it has been challenging because it just came about prior to consideration of CD2. Okay, I just wanted to know your mana'o.
Thank you. And also in relation to this, we understand this will be the first addition to support the Honolulu Youth Commission. And with that moving forward, if we can have have any line items that is needed to support the Honolulu Youth Commission after this fiscal year, so that we can see it not just only added into the next fiscal year budget, but also support whatever is added to the Honolulu Youth Commission for the next fiscal year's proposed budget as well.
Budget Chair, we do support the Honolulu Youth Commission. We support them with staff, time, and the council also supports them. Do you mean additional?
So I'm saying that I reduced it to 5,000. And so moving forward, after they get, let's say, we give them 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever amount, that in the next budgets moving forward, if we can see how that support of 5,000 or 10,000, whatever we decide, how it has helped them in the next budget. That's all I'm saying.
Understood, Budget Chair. So we will work with them with whatever budget they have this year, and we'll see if it's appropriate or not and come back
Correct.
to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much, members. Okay, on page 2, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Just following up, and perhaps we can do this after the meeting, but if we could get a list of the boards and commissions and whether they have staff or not, I think that's also helpful in understanding exactly, what kind of support each individual board or commission might need.
That's a great point. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I think also, I don't know in which committee, but we did bring that up. I think in individual committees, especially when we were talking about in boards and parks and recreation and, standing it up. I know that certain things have been brought up. Things have changed during the pandemic. So looking forward to such communication. And Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, would you be able to also maybe provide that as a written communications, to the city administration so that we can have that noted? Thank you. Members, anything on page 2? Okay, moving on to page 3. The chair will recommend to accept the amendments on page 3. We have Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much.
Office of Housing. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, for the administration, Deputy Managing Director, please. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My question was, when we had talked about, and this is in Bill 12, but it related to the infrastructure and housing plan. I don't know if you recall, Managing Director stood up. He had a great presentation about this idea he had because it said that it was going to be for each of our districts, but it specifically was about creating the infrastructure and a housing plan if we got matching funds from the state. So there was $2 million appropriated for the west side, $2 million for various areas. So there's 3 pockets of that. I guess my question would be, since this is similar and it's asking to do a housing plan in each of the districts, what is the admin's position on where it would be served best? Because, I mean, obviously the managing director's background is transportation. So he wanted it to have infrastructure support, not just affordable housing, but what kind of monies will we need to put in if affordable housing is built? What new streets, what new pipes, what new waterways, what new wastewater plants do we need? So I guess my question is, because the Office of Housing is policy-based and you guys had money in for an affordable housing infrastructure plan, where would it serve its purpose best?
So, Councilmember, thank you for that question. And with apologies, Denise Cesare Matsubara had pre-planned leave from a long time ago, so I'm here on her behalf. With respect to your question, so you're correct. We did put in $2 million each in the CIP budget for infrastructure planning for next year. UH West Oahu, Iwilei area, and by the stadium. And the idea there was that we would sort of work with the state and be able to multiply that money and put in the infrastructure, to get the infrastructure planning in order to build affordable housing on an expanding basis. With respect to this item, the discussion I had with Denise Cesare Matsubara is that we are fully supportive of looking at sort of regional needs, because different regions do have different needs. But the discussion I had with her is for this year, we have put in money for a island-wide plan. Let us get that island-wide plan done, and then let us figure out, working with council, what the regions are and what makes the most sense, because the council districts are based on population generally, rather than geographic affinity at all times. So that was the ask there on this item, Councilmember. I'm not sure if I'm entirely answering your question or not.
No, you did a great job. So is this ask the $900,000 from the administration?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to match up because obviously we've asked multiple times for a housing plan, and then managing director had his big plans about the infrastructure plan and the money there. So I guess my question would be, and I guess more we can discuss it on the next version, but $100,000 for each of our districts would equal what? Because as far as I'm concerned, the Office of Housing has a lot on their plate. Denise has very few people that work with her. I'm wondering what this would equal as far as a tangible product that I would say, especially in my district where affordable housing is popping up everywhere. So we definitely need an infrastructure plan. I don't know if $100,000 will equal anything better, as much as we kind of are just asking for more support as all of these are popping up. Many of the projects in my district, I don't know if they would need a plan per se, as much as we need a bigger overall structure of what the city's going to do to support the housing. So you can go ahead, Chair, if you want.
Thank you, Deputy Managing Director. I would like to, through the worksheets, and what's it called, the amendment submitted, the $900,000. If I could first off read off the amendment, if that's okay. So this is for top of page 3. It increases funding for current expenses of $900,000. So my recommendation to accept but amend the description to read, add funding for current expenses and add the proviso, at least $900,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated to prepare an affordable and a workhouse housing plan for each of the 9 council districts, $100,000 per council district. Each council district affordable and workforce, housing plan shall address 1, history and culture, housing profile trends, or 2, housing profile trends, 3, housing demand and affordability, 4, infrastructure projects existing and planned, and next, and infrastructure needs to support anticipated development. Next, housing projects existing and planned, and opportunities for new housing development. And also community and public facilities existing and planned, as well as community and public facility needs to support anticipated development, which you can see in your worksheet in front of you. I would like to kick it over to the recommendation, to the council member who provided that recommendation, Council Chair Waters.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your consideration of this amendment. Basically, the $900,000 dollar amount was an estimate. I'm just looking at what Maui did. Maui has a draft plan, an affordable housing infrastructure plan, and I think theirs cost about $350,000. But I'm just being safe, putting $100,000 for each district. And the idea really would be exactly as Councilmember Tupola talked about, figuring out what kind of infrastructure is needed in each of our districts, whether it's roads, sewer, water, electricity, things of that nature. And my hope is that once we are able to identify the need, then we can partner with the state and or leverage private money to put in this infrastructure. But we got to identify what's needed first. So your favorable consideration is appreciated. It could go in housing, it could go in other DDC, but I figured housing would be the best because it is a housing plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay. Members, we're still on page, sorry, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And just for Deputy Managing Director, do appreciate the, projects that have gone into, District 2, the funding for Wailua Milk Camp, the recent acquisition of Hope Treatment Services, Council for Native Hawaiian Advancements property on Mango Street. Just wanted to emphasize, 'cause I don't think we disagree, but I know you had talked about an island-wide plan and then maybe more regional focuses. But I just wanted to stress that I do think, regional specifics would I hope would inform an island-wide plan, because as you said, there are different geographic regions on Oahu. They do each represent an equal portion of the population of Oahu. And at the same time, I think that several of the districts see an equal distribution of resources. And that's, of course, because of systemic issues we have, right, with finding organizational capacity in the nonprofit sector and also just other challenges, right? And I do appreciate the administration's, stepping up and doing that, but I just wanted to emphasize that because I do think when we're looking at, shaping a housing and homelessness plan, I know we've had a lot of discussion, but I do think they go hand in hand because just of that spectrum of where folks fall, that the plan should be informed by all the different specifics in our communities across the island.
Councilmember, thank you for that comment, and we don't disagree at all. And we don't disagree at all that that sort of deep dive would be helpful. It's just in terms of in the order of things, we thought, let's get the island-wide plan informed by the regional needs, then let's get into the deep dive. But I appreciate your comments, and I certainly appreciate the intent of this item.
Mahalo for that, because in not always I just see them as one and the same, but I understand what you're saying. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, for page 3, we have Councilmember Say.
Yes. Deputy Managing Director, do we really need a plan? I'm learning so much. The Vice Chair is learning so much from the Oahu plan, the development plans that go before the neighborhood boards, etc. Why don't we confine it just to a 1-mile radius tied to the rail? I thought you folks wanted to develop the properties alongside the rail.
Councilmember Say, thank you for that question. We've always talked up here about how we want to do execution and learning, but at the same time, we've also acknowledged that there's a need for an articulation of what we're doing at some point so the wider community can understand how we're thinking, what we're thinking, and what we're trying to do. So I do believe a plan is appropriate, and I think that would be helpful for all of the parties involved.
No,
thank you.
Maybe you didn't understand my question. My question was simply put, for both Chair and I think we have the most vociferous, outspoken boards on Oahu. They already criticized both Chair and I in regards to the outreach by DPP in making the presentations to development plans. The concern now is that, are we spending it wisely? If our predecessors said that we're going to develop the corridor where the rail is, just focus on that for now, rather than going county-wide. I can see how noble it is that every district will have 100,000, but I'm stuck in District 5. The development plan says it's going to be in the primary urban center. If you want to go west, central Oahu, windward Oahu, fine. But you're going to get a lot of pushback. And that's what I'm trying to get. What can we do with this money that will be concrete? And I always felt that after these years, our predecessors said, the only way we're going to make money for the rail if we have development adjacent to the rail and the stations. But I am concerned for the central side, the west side, maybe they don't want the development. But for Pearl City, Aiea, et cetera, coming into town, you're gonna have these pressures, that's what I'm saying. And I bring this up because you're correct. Your Department of Planning and Permitting has gone out to the neighborhood boards in the presentation of the revisions to the development plans. And that's why I'm saying maybe this particular 900,000 should be in-house with DPP. You already have a document in place that I think all of us have not read it thoroughly. But my point to you this morning is simply put, I get pushback for Kapahulu Avenue, Wailai Avenue, in regards to more business development encroaching on residential. That's why I'm just asking you if we can save some money and have DPP make a presentation for each and every one of us by council districts. They have a development plan. The East Oahu plan, they don't want anything. Listening to the board that both Chair and I attend, and don't make it difficult for the 9 elected officials. That's all I'm saying. That's number one. Number two, are we going to follow up with our predecessors in regards to, are we going to support the development of the corridor where rail is at?
Councilmember, thank you for that question. I certainly don't want to stand here and make things difficult for any of you 9. I do want to, in case it's unclear, this 900,000 was not a request by admin, but what we did was we expressed our understanding of the intent behind it. And with respect to TOD does remain the focus. And Councilmember, you put me in a little bit of a funny position because I think the council as a whole has been asking for a plan. We agree that our plan is appropriate. So we do want to bring forth a plan that will at least reference TOD and its role in the big scheme of things. With respect to DPP and having them come and present to you all, that's certainly something that we can work with the DPP director and schedule if that's something if council as a whole would like to see.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember DePola.
Thank you. Just a follow-up, thank you to the to Chair Waters for adding this. I think we're super happy to hear you say we want a plan, because I think we all want one as well. So having a plan is definitely a step in the right direction. I'm glad that there's a little bit of leeway on where it should go best, because, council members say suggesting DPP. You guys suggested in a different amendment, DDC. Maybe it's the Office of Housing. So I do think overall, especially on the west side, because the city is not the main player, like in Kapolei, we have already regular infrastructure meetings with Campbell Estates, with Hunt Corporations, with DHHL, who they are main property owners in our district, much more than the city is actually. And of course, the state has some big projects. So I hear the same concerns as council members say, which is because some of our districts have different needs, especially in mine, where we would probably just be a partner and not be the ones overseeing all of this. What does that look like in, which is very drastically different than a TOD, because we don't have that, in the heart of everything. So just a thought. I do think that as we go forward, we'll continue this discussion on the need for the plan and how we fund it. So thank you for your thoughts, and of course for always keeping us updated on what you guys' plans are. I can't wait to see more of that. And of course, we're here to partner and help you.
Thank you, Councilmember. If I might share the $2 million that's in the CIP, housing is intimately involved in thinking that through, and so that's part of the whole affordable working group that we've discussed before. So the housing plan will be with Denise Sari-Matsubara, but they're clearly involved with the infrastructure piece as well. Thank you.
In the amendment, it did say you guys needed state matching funds for that, correct?
We do not need state matching funds, but it might open up state matching funds.
Okay, the line said funds to be released upon securing matching funds, so I was,
I will confirm that, Councilmember. I apologize, I don't know off the top
Are
of my
you
head.
looking at the CIP?
I was just making sure that it wasn't something we needed to add, yeah.
Councilmember Tupelo, are you looking at the CIP?
Yeah,
You're looking at the CIP.
yeah, that's the one they
Okay.
added for a housing plan.
Okay, we can talk about that with Councilmember Say too when we get to the CIP.
Thank you.
Because, yeah, okay, all right, perfect. I would like to refer to the council member who made the amendment, Council Chair Waters.
Thank you. Again, the idea here is, and my hope is that the drafter of the plan works with each community to decide where we want development. As Councilmember Say pointed out, in East Honolulu, there's not much developable land. So we have different issues than, say, Councilmember Kia'aina or Councilmember Wire or Councilmember Tupola or Councilmember Tolba. Every district's going to be different. But my hope is that we work with the community to decide where exactly we want new development, and then whether or not we even have the infrastructure capabilities, right? Water, sewage, sewer, right? And then roads. In some districts, roads isn't really an issue in my district, but certainly it's going to be an issue in other districts. But that's the kind of infrastructure that I'm talking about. And, you know, 900,000 in no scheme of things, it's much, much less than the CIP budget. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. Whether it's in housing or DPP, to me, it doesn't matter. You're going to end up going out and doing a RFP to get the plan done. Thank you.
Okay, members, any other comments on page 3? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Chair, so once again, Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 3. Okay, moving forward to page 4, we have Neighborhood Commission. We have Department of Customer Services, or the beginning of Department of Customer Services. Members, please review. There are a few divisions and departments listed here on this page 4. Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 4. Any questions? Thank you for your support for the Neighborhood Commission, everyone. Okay, moving to page 5, including more portions of motor vehicle licensing and permitting, and then the beginning of BFS administration. Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 5. I do want to note that there is an amendment on page, or amendment to the proviso on page 5, which at least 60,000 out of current expenses shall be appropriated for a feral chicken and or other invasive birds control contract. And so I would like to kick it over to the introducer of the council member who recommended that proviso, Committee Vice Chair Wire, and other invasive birds.
Yeah, so I just want to appreciate Councilmember Say's initial introduction or proposal for the ad or the proviso rather, and just wanted to clarify and make the contract as flexible as possible given just what our communities on Oahu are dealing with in terms of invasive species. I know largely it's a state matter, but of course they have a tiered response and don't have capacity to address it all. And so if the city is going to be entering into a contract to deal with invasive chickens or birds, we wanted it to be as flexible as possible for the community to make use of it, particularly with the invasive parrots that we're seeing on Oahu.
Invasive parrots. Okay, got it. I don't know.
And that's actually pretty, I mean, so just, it was in the news a while ago, but I'll just, note that I think the county of Kauai alone had to deal with about 10,000 of them. And, it's damaging to our crops, it's damaging to communities, it creates a health concern. And I know we see them, different parts of Oahu, and they're beautiful. But when you have thousands of them in particular areas, it can be extremely harmful to the surrounding community, livestock, and folks' way of life.
Yeah, certainly. I've seen a lot of, I don't know if they're parakeets or something that are in Kalihi Valley and Moanalua Valley as well. Okay, so members, any comments on page 5? Any questions for the administration on page 5? Page 5. Page 5. Okay, you sure? All right. Yes, I'll have Stephanie Kendrick here. Okay. All right. Moving forward, any questions for? Hold on. Let's see here. Let me look at BFS. Okay. Let's see. No, not yet. Okay. So I just want to share that the increase back to Budget and Fiscal Services Administration has been an increase for their requested budget. Okay, moving forward, page 6. Yes, we are now on page 6 this is all under BFS, but it has a few divisions: accounting and fiscal services. We have internal control. We have purchasing and general services. We have treasury and real property. Members, we have questions for page 6, and I know that maybe Councilmember. Council Vice Chair Kiaina has questions regarding about the ombudsman for under internal control. Councilmember.
Yes. First of all, thank you, Chair, and thank you for at least keeping this issue alive. As we discussed earlier with the Deputy Managing Director, the original intent of my $85,000 in the CD1 in the Managing Director's office was in furtherance of Resolution 22-207, which urged the establishment of an internal affairs unit or an ombudsman for the Liquor Commission. And since then, we have had discussions with BFS and the MD's office of the appropriate location, because they believe that the ombudsman should take on a broader portfolio. And so my CD2 proposes this ombudsman would be citywide and in BFS using general funds. My question for BFS would be, do you think that this should be in salary funds or contract funds to achieve the objective that we've identified?
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina, for allowing us to comment. As of right now, we don't have a preference. We just know that we're going to work with the Managing Director's office to determine where the position should be best placed. In terms of staff in the Internal Control Division, where the proposal sits right now, Internal Control Division is working very hard on staffing. They have 4 FTEs that needs to be filled. There were vacant positions. And they're working hard to find CPA, Certified Public Accountant type individuals that can step in and focus on ensuring that we have internal controls in place to safeguard city assets and to ensure that we have reliable, useful, timely reporting. So that's the primary focus. And I think for most of FY24, the focus will be recruitment of, those kinds of staff.
Sure. I would hope that with regard to the ombudsman, the parameters could be different from the auditors.
I think you're right. It will have to be different.
It be more flexible.
More flexible.
To take into account not only our primary desire, of course, is to have a ombudsman for the Liquor Commission, but then, of course, the broader portfolio for investigations for others who have complaints against the city.
You are correct, and the focus will be complaints that are complex in nature,
Yes.
that are difficult for current agency-level administrative staff to handle.
Okay, I just am hoping once the budget is passed that you are not hindered just because of your obligations for the Internal Affairs Unit. I don't want it to hinder the ability for this job to move forward.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Kiana, if you are able to get updates on that throughout the fiscal year, that would help the rest of the council members. Thank you. Okay, any questions on page 6? Once again, the chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 6, which includes purchasing and general services, treasury, and real property. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Director Quano, do you have any comments?
Yeah, so on page 6, we have, first of all, I noticed that, expenses were not restored for most of the BFS divisions. So I'd like council members, budget chair, to consider restoring expenses because they essentially fund the operations of the various divisions. So there was $40,000 reduced from, administration, $20,000 reduced from accounting and fiscal services. And specifically for administration, we pay for things like our deferred compensation plan consultant. We pay for the GFOA certificate that, helps with the bond rating. We also pay for all of our CAFR reporting and printing costs. And I kind of asked our staff to look at line items that make up the expenses. And generally, none of the expenses, there was nothing new. It's just that expenses went up with inflation. And, they were kind of spread across the board. So if you keep the deductions, you're going to impact operations. And I want to thank Budget Chair for restoring a lot of the salaries, but there are some departments, some divisions within our department that did not have complete salary restoration. And I'm concerned about departments like, for instance, Real Property Administration, because we took out about $131,000 to help fund the PVP, even though it's smaller. So we have some provision for vacant positions, about $3.5 million. $131,000 of that division's salary budget went into PVP. We also noticed that the restoration was $1 million and it's short 66. So 66 and 131 is almost $200,000. And, our administrator and his staff are concerned that, they won't have staffing for, they won't have budget next year to continue some of the staff that they have in place. Also, for purchasing specifically, we didn't restore all of the budget. It's still short some, and we're trying to enhance and augment purchasing so that we can handle, federal funding. There's going to be a lot of federal funding still needing to be processed, and we talked about the 4 mid-level staff we're trying to hire. That could be impacted, and we have 5 vacancies. We filled 2, and they're making good progress filling vacancies. Without having our budget in place, it's hard to continue recruitment and maintain momentum. And I think that applies for all of the agencies that we have, because some were severely cut. I think you'll see that Department of Land Management was restored, but partially. They have lots
Director,
of...
sorry, we're talking about page 6 only.
So continuing about... budget and finance, we strongly urge that you take a look at the salary restorations again, because
Thank you.
we're concerned.
Thank you. I can respond that for current expenses. I know that we maybe mainly for purchasing, that majority of the recommendations by members have been to increase the budget back to its original request. So, but you're right about the salaries, but as for the salaries, there is within, for like example, real property, $1,311, and so in your vacancy funds, that's not in the PVP, but in your current salaries under fiscal year 2024, and that's where majority of that cut has come from. So thank you. Okay. Council Vice Chair Kiana.
Chair, because I know this is an important bill relating Bill 9, 2022 vacancy tax, I just wanted to confirm with you, you originally recommended $500,000 for a real property tax study, and I understand it's not in the current budget. Am I correct that you will be proposing that it be broadened beyond a vacancy tax to a real property tax classification study, and that BFS will be considering this as part of the ARPA funds? Is this, because it's not in the bill, it's something that I do support because we are unable, I've gotten contacted from a lot of people about why the Permitted Action Group, they want to see Bill 9 be included for the vacancy tax, but I understand you originally had an amendment for $500,000 that I support, but is not in the budget. And so my question is that issue still going to be alive, whereby Budget and Fiscal Services will be proposing that as part of our ARPA request, so that we could have the data necessary for us to move forward on a vacancy tax measure?
We still have ARPA funding as backup, but the scope is primarily empty homes tax right now. We would have to make that change in the scope of the procurement.
I'm sorry?
So it is not in the current budget because it is being funded, the $500,000 is being funded by FRF.
Okay, and is it, are you able to modify the scope of that study to broaden it to be more than vacancy tax?
We can do that, but we should probably have discussions with you after, because, or in the permitted interaction group, because we just want to make sure that we don't dilute the impact of the study.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we just need to be prepared. I can guarantee you that at tomorrow's Permitted Action Group hearing, there will be a lot of proponents of Bill 9 who will be testifying, and I just want to be upfront with them with regard to what is needed prior to legislation moving forward. That's all. That's all. So I will welcome your mana'o, and it'll probably be raised tomorrow again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, are there any comments or recommendations for page 6? I do want to make the amendment for the purchasing and general services, the increase of 3,000. I would like to increase it to $100,000. Thank you. Members, any comments, questions? Purchasing current expenses, instead of increasing 3,000, it's 100,000. Thank you. Okay, for page 7, members, any questions relating to budgetary administration, fiscal CIP administration? I know that the budget director has shared further comments about salaries and current expenses that need to come back. I do also want to share that on page 7 that we have a few amendments on description, on page 7 for the funding for salaries. We have to accept but amend description. This is for fiscal CIP administration for 20 positions. It's under it's accept but amend description to read decrease funding to reflect fiscal year 2024 grant amount from HUD. And then below it, also under fiscal CIP administration, accept but amend description to read decrease funding to reflect FY 2024 home grant amount from HUD. Are there any questions? And I want to thank the administration for working with us on those amendments. Any questions? Page 7. Okay, Chair would like to recommend accepting the amendments, including the amended provisos on page 7. Okay, moving forward, page 8, we are on to DIT with our with their divisions of administration and applications and operations and technical support, ERP, CSR, as well as communications and networks on page 8. Members, do we have any questions? Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 8. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Moving forward, page 9, we have Department of Corporation Counsel, as well as Department of the Prosecuting Attorney. Under Department of the Corporation Counsel, we have Legal Services and Ethics Commission. Then also we have Department of Prosecuting Attorney, which includes administration and the beginning of prosecution. Members, do you have any questions? Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 9, page 9. Okay, we have Councilmember Tupola.
No, thank you, Chair, for the current expenses for community courts. It's been a huge blessing for us, pulling that relationship closer with Department of Community Services, and it will be utilized. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
I just wanted to see if anyone from the Department of Prosecuting Attorney wanted to comment on the budget items, if that's okay.
Prosecuting Attorney? Okay, Mr. Mal, please identify yourself and please proceed. Or Councilmember Wire, please ask your question.
Mahalo, Chair. And just wanted to ask your insight on these changes to the proposed budget.
Good morning, committee members, Budget Chair Cordero, Vice Chair Wire. Yes, and the rest of the members of the committee, I'd like to speak about, asking the City Council for a full restoration of the original salary amounts for the prosecuting attorney. We do appreciate the restoration of the current expense and much of the items, but I believe that we're still approximately $1 million short of the amount that we had originally requested for salary. And as I previously testified, and as Prosecutor Alm has testified, the impact of $1 million is really about 9 deputy prosecuting attorneys. And I testified before about how that impacts the committee in the different forms that it is. That, it's not just a number, it's really about its impact on public safety in the areas of criminal, sex assault, elder abuse, white-collar crime, because that's where it's going to really hurt. And, what I'm afraid of is currently our DPA count is at 83 prosecutors. And, we're continuing to suffer from an exodus of persons leaving our department. And so we're asking for your help to help us stem this tide.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mao, you have, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, Mr. Mao, thank you very much. In your current vacancy funds, not in the PVP or anything like that, you have currently never filled positions, of course, your clerk typist, but also 1 deputy corporation counsel and another deputy corporation counsel. The deputy corporation counsels are at $99,996 for salary, and the clerk typist at $36,072. And then under that, you have vacancy funds of $1,267,752. I understand that I do.
Excuse me, I don't know if that's the correct number because we don't.
That is what the administration has provided to the city, to the council in their budget communications.
No, I think that's referring to the corporation council.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Corporation council. Excuse me. Sorry. One moment. Okay, thank you. I apologize. Okay, so you have $2,419,500 or $2,419,500 for 3 positions. We have one deputy prosecuting attorney that has not been filled, and 1 temporary. 2 other positions that have not been filled since 2014. And out of that $1 million, we are leaving in your vacancy funds, not PVP, but your vacancy funds that's in your salary, close to $1.5 million.
Understand. You know, let me speak to position fills. You know, in particular, you mentioned these positions that haven't been filled since 2014. You know, last year, Budget Chair Say, you know, had brought up the fact to us that we had actually people that there were vacancies up to 2009. And we had worked very hard over the past year to eliminate all of those positions that where these positions were vacant from 2009. And you have our absolute guarantee that, you know, dealing with the issues with the ones from 2014, it's virtually the same answer that I had for Budget Chair Say last year. These are problems that developed under the prior administration. We're working very hard to filling these long-standing vacancies and issues. I think that we've been pretty successful in addressing this problem, and we just are asking for your continued support in trying to address these long-term vacancy issues.
Thank you. Respectfully, Mr. Mao, the $1 million that has been removed from your salary does not even equate, and the close to 1.5 million that we've kept in your salaries for fiscal year 24 with your vacancy funds covers those 3 positions that also has not been filled from 2009, 2014, and never been filled. So respectfully, I'd ask for the committee members to accept this recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mao.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, members, any questions for number 9? Page 9, not number 9. Page 9. Okay. Once again, Chair recommended to accept the amendments on page 9. Chair recommends to accept, moving forward to page 10, and of course I'll give members time to look at this. And thank you, Mr. Mao, for telling me that I was in the wrong department. Okay, so members, we are still on page 10. We are now on page 10. We are still under prosecuting attorney. And then we are also including victim witness assistance. We also have on page 10, Department of Human Resources, Administration, Employment and Personal Services, classification and pay, industrial safety and workers' compensation. And Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 10. I also like to share that I would like to state that the increases by the council members back to victim witness assistance is supported back to the original ask, as well as for administration, as well as classification and pay, as well as industrial safety and workers' compensation. Any questions? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a note that this proviso on the prosecution is specifically for salary for the community outreach court. So while the prosecuting attorney's office is here, we definitely need people assisting the one person working community court right now. So I just want to thank the chair for adding this in there. It is very, very necessary. He works really hard by himself to do all of the support for community court to the judiciary branch. So just wanted to make note that that's what that is for, and thank you for the proviso.
Thank you very much for working on the proviso as well. Members, anything on page 10? Okay. Okay, moving forward, page 11, we still are under DHR, under Labor Relations and Training, which was restored or increased back. We also have Department of Emergency Services, Health Services. We then move on to planning and zoning under DPP. We have administration and site development. Members, there's a few different departments and a few different divisions within the departments. Here on page 11, Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 11. Please take some time to look at it and then allow for questions. Okay, so once again, we are on page 11. For labor relations, it is increased by the council members to support and bring back to the initial request. For health services, we have a partial restoration administration for DPP. Let's see here. we had duplicate increases. And for site development, we have increased it back. And yeah, any questions? Okay, all right, moving forward. Chair recommends to accept the amendments. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, is it?
Going back to page 11, where Chair recommended to accept the amendments.
No, Madam Chair, is it possible to increase the salary of the historic preservation officer? Because 68,000 isn't going to do it in the recruitment process.
Okay, got it. Understood. So, members, I would like to draw your attention to page 11, administration, the second item under Department of Planning and Permitting, administration, which adds a position and funding for salaries, and the proviso of at least 68,000 out of salary shall be appropriated to support the Oahu Historic Preservation Commission. Council members say, do you have a recommendation?
I would recommend that we consider it using the class of the excluded management 8.
I don't, what's that number?
It's about 112 to 113,000.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? So I would like to repeat, currently in the proviso, we have at least 68,000 out of salary shall be appropriated to support the Oahu Historic Preservation Commission. I know that Councilmember Say is making a recommendation to increase it to EM 8, which is 112, 113,000. Members, we can discuss this. Okay, so Councilmember Tupola, Council Vice Chair Kiaina, but Councilmember Tupola first.
Chair, just for clarification, it says that it can be at least 68,000 out of salary should be appropriated, which means they could use more, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I just think that possibly the director, as they find and look for this, they can flex it, as well as she does have vacancies and funds for that. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, Council Vice Chair Kiaina.
Yes, and I don't know if the administration is able to answer this, but FTE was already authorized in last year's budget for an archaeologist, so this is simply for administration support, correct?
Okay, I would like to welcome from the administration DPP Director Don Takuchi Apuna.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Vice Chair, I believe that we do have a position for the administrator.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. No, for the archaeologist. So I guess to answer Councilmember Say's questions, based on our previous discussions, you currently have a staffer who is helping.
Yes.
So this is for administration. With regard to professional staff, you already have capacity to hire a full-time archaeologist. Is that still on target?
So I think the administrator is supposed to be an archaeologist as part of the qualifications of the administrator of the commission.
But that is not this position, correct?
No, this is, I think this is support.
I think it is.
Right?
You guys got to clarify, there's no way that this could be the administrator, it's
Okay.
too low.
Okay, so really quick, may I just interject? This salary and position came up from the, I forgot, a zoning committee, and this is in support, an additional position in support of, I think, the current archaeologist. I don't know how to say that word.
Sorry. Sorry, yes, so this is in addition to the administrator.
Yes, so
That's
I
correct.
guess Councilmember Say, I think that this is sufficient. This is for administrative to support the archaeologist that's already authorized, but they also have a staffer at DPP who has been terrific in helping the overall establishment of DPP's capacity for this commission.
Thank you. And Council Vice Chair Kiaina, and for Robert's rules, can you direct it? You can mention, but you direct the comment to me. Thank you. Okay, Committee Vice Chair Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, Director Pona, so just to clarify, you wouldn't be limited to the 68,000, or would you in terms of filling this position?
I don't think we are limited. That would be the base or the bottom.
Okay, thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other discussion? Okay, any other discussion? Thank you for that consideration, Councilmember Say, but Chair would accept this current recommendation and allow for further discussion with the DPP as this position looks to be filled in the next fiscal year. Okay, Okay, going back to page 11. So once again, Chair recommends the adoption, to accept the amendments on page 11, and thank you for that discussion, members. Okay, going to page 12, we have here, including land use permits, planning, and customer service, all under DPP. Chair recommends to accept the amendments proposed on page 12. Members, discussion, I also want to note the proviso under planning, the second planning line, which accepts but amends the description to read, add positions and funding for salaries, add proviso at least $160,000 out of salary shall be appropriated for 2 policy advisors. And the person who made that recommendation is not here at the moment. But members, any discussion? Come on, Councilmember Say.
Yeah, Madam Chair, may I have the director?
Sure.
Ms. Apuna? Oh, good morning. Good afternoon. I really enjoyed visiting your permit center. Have we ever thought about having these employees work overtime on the weekends to facilitate the processing of the permits, if they want to volunteer and work and get paid on a weekend?
Some of them do currently. It depends. Some of the pre-screen, we're having some people do overtime.
Okay. Do you need other resources to, finish up all of these backlogs as far as the pre-screening, et cetera?
So in the last few months, we have been kind of digging further into our processes and the backlog and what's happening there. So ideally, yes, I think we could use more staff for more clerks in the pre-screen as well as in the review, the residential review area.
No, I just want to see how we can address the backlog by having these employees who are presently working for the city think about coming in on a Saturday, Sunday to review all of these permits that are backlogged. Is it attractive for them to come and work overtime? I don't know. I just want to see how we could keep the permitting process moving.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I think there would be some volunteers willing to come in for overtime to help process more permits.
Okay, the final question, Madam Chair, is it a possibility of having a budget line item setting aside? How much do you think for the 8 months of the year that you'd have people working Saturdays, Sundays? What would be the cost item for that? Would you folks have any idea?
We're thinking about 200,000.
Okay, yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you. 200,000.
200,000. Okay, thank you. Do you have a recommendation, Councilmember Say, on page 12 for that?
After your presentation speech earlier this morning, I hate to add more money to the budget, but if this is going to facilitate the permitting process and get the backlog, extinguished, that would be great, but it's just for discussion for the council members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Noted. Council Vice Chair Kia Aina.
I have a comment on that because we've previously had the discussion. As far as I'm concerned, since we are being very delicate about increasing the budget right now because it's balanced, that you secure ARPA funds. And I've said this previously, not just with career staff, but I don't think anyone's going to disagree that you need as much arsenal as possible to tackle the backlog, and that includes for outside contractors to be able to help. I care more about the middle of the permitting system for the due diligence phase. So either way, I guess I think that that is more an appropriate course of action because as far as I'm concerned, we just bypassed Office of Economic Revitalization and restoring there. So, you have your budget request, right? And he's asking for an additional. I feel that that should be coming from the ARPA funds at this juncture.
Noted, thank you. Members, any other discussion on page 12? We'll look on page 12. No? Okay, once again, Chair makes the recommendation to accept the amendments on page 12. Members, before I move forward, I do want to share that I recognize it is almost 12:30. I would like to, depending on where we are, finish up around 12:45 or 1 o'clock, depending on, once again, the page that we are on, and then we'll take a break for 30 minutes at that time, okay? I just want to let everyone know, for the members, but as well as for the city administration, so that they know where we are. Okay, moving forward, we are at page 13. Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 13. This includes DFM's Public Building and Electrical Maintenance, DDC's Administration, Project and Construction Management and Land Services, as well as the beginning, oh no, actually, Department of Land Management Administration. Members, are there any questions on these three departments and their divisions that are on page 13 only? Any questions, recommendations, comments on the acceptance? We have the city administration here. I would like to state that we have restored DDC, or, I'm sorry, increased the funding for DDC. Let's see here. As well as for their administration, and as well as for their land services. And yes. Any questions? No? Really? Okay, perfect. Okay, wait, does anyone, hold on. Sorry, Director Millis. Does anyone have a question for Director Millis so he can say anything? Okay, I will ask. Director Millis, do you have any comments on page 13 only?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Just want to make a quick comment because of the funding reduction. So there was a reduction to both general and highway funds that was made. And so the money that was put back, assumed to be in general, will now allow us to fund the positions that are in our civil division, some in our mechanical electrical division, but makes it difficult to hire into our facilities division. And so because that wasn't 100% clear, I just wanted to make sure that was noted across the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? Councilmember Say.
So Director Millis,
Director Millis.
with the reduction, what is the overall service impact? You know, we depend on the department so much for our CIP.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember Say. So the impact, as you guys know, will have a direct reduction on productivity into our CIP program. Those positions specifically, or that funding, I think, is to fund vacant positions in our facilities division. So we do continue to work hard and recruit, trying to bring in new talent continuously. This cut would basically allow us not to fill those positions at all. Thank you.
Okay, members, you can see that we restored for administration. You can see on the worksheets that we've restored for, I think, project and construction management, and that's 1.262 million. I don't know which one you're just, okay.
Just looking, Madam Chair, just overall, and I think for all of us, the restoration of funds for salaries, it must be tied to our collective bargaining. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions for page 13? So, Director Millis, just as I've asked the other members of the other administration, the Department of Design and Construction has $2,687,081 in their vacant funds that has not been filled since, I want to say, 2009 and even 2013 and more, and some that have not, in the communication says don't plan to be filled. And we have restored more than half at 1.262,614,000, leaving at least 1.4 mil, I think that's a rough, as a, and for your salaries as well. So I understand what what Director Kawano has brought up about filling it and planning to use funding from FRF and transitioning it like year by year. But for those that have been vacant since 2009, we have accounted for that and not accounted for all of the salary funds that are under vacancy funds. So I just wanted to explain myself again, since I know that the department heads are in and out of the chambers. Yeah. Okay, any questions, members? Okay, thank you. Page 13, we are accepting the amendments. Page 14, we have Department of Facility Maintenance, as well as for the automotive equipment services, as well as the beginning of public safety. We have Police Commission and Office of the Chief of Police. Okay, members. This is page 14. Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 14. For automotive, we have restored not restored, $1 million. And then for their, let's see, current expenses, I think the full thing. And for public safety, once again, we're starting our Police Commission and Office of the Chief of Police. Okay, any questions? So let's see. If anything, I would like to hand it over to the Public Safety Chair, Councilmember Okimoto, as we are restoring it to the $87,727 back.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I have no questions at this time, but thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Okay. All right, with that, Chair recommends to accept the amendments for Automotive Equipment Services, Police Commission, and Office of the Chief of Police on page 14. Next up, page 15, we have Patrol under Police. Are there any questions? And Chair will recommend to accept the amendments on page 15. We have Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. For the Police Department, please.
All right, may we have members of the HPD? Please identify yourself.
Good to go. Good morning, Council Chair and Council members. My name is Aaron Takasaki Young. I'm an Assistant Chief with the Honolulu Police Department.
Okay, Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Assistant Chief Takasaki Young, for being here. My question is in regards to the second line item regarding community policing team. So the community policing team is super important for me. They actually are out there with me all the time. We have one sergeant and I think right now 3 officers. What can the $1 million do? Which I'm sorry. The accepted amount is going to be $900,000, and it's recommended that it should be for all of our council districts. Could you outline for me what you think the $900,000 can do for all of our districts?
I believe all you council members can agree that community policing teams are important to build relationships that many patrol officers can't do due to the various duties. Some of the events that we can do is we have Say Hi events, KKIDs, as well as other community events, whether it's tents and other events that we would use those monies to help further our relationships with the community. Graffiti cleanups are often an important aspect to show that we're not letting this activity continue.
I appreciate all the events. I think just to iterate to all the council members that one of the most important things CPT does actually is assist in the SPOs. And so we cannot have restoration of public areas back to the public if we don't have enough CPT officers, because DFM relies on them to do what they need to do, of course, with the human interaction and enforcement. They don't want to do that, right? They need the officers to do that. So do you think this could get us more officers? What specifically, the $900,000, would you guys do in order to help us with our CPT teams.
So more officers to help assist with those SPO, SNOs on a more consistent basis. That would be another opportunity for us to use the $900,000.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because on some weeks we have to kind of skip because some of the officers are at events. But honestly, like if we aren't consistent, we will not see any progress in some of the areas we're trying to restore. So thank you, Chair, for this. Wholeheartedly support this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? I would like to add to the comments about community policing as I made the proviso amendment. I would like to add that beyond what was mentioned by both of you, that there are very valuable programs, and I know Councilmember Tolba actually brought up a few, like maybe even last year and even this year, but programs, even the RAP program, things that have been done in the past that still need support, because once we get those programs, and even for our PAL leagues, I grew up with like being involved with PAL, and so as a kid, not like as an adult, obviously, but I definitely think it's so valuable to continue to support that, and people don't realize like how much time it takes up, like after hours, as well as not just manpower, but all the expenses it takes up. So I just wanted to state that in my main reason, because a lot of our community policing teams are also out there doing patrol too, right? So a lot of them, they're reporting to neighborhood boards when they can. They're also, if they have to report on something that's related to CPT, but they're also reporting right outside of, while on beat. So anyway, I just wanted to state that, and yeah, anyway. Any other comments or questions for page 15? I went on and on about that. Okay. Okay. Let's see, we have, okay, let's see. All right, okay, Chair would like to recommend the acceptance of page 15. Any comments? Okay, thank you very much. Moving forward to page 16, Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 16. You can see here that we have a few amendments here for patrol, as well as special field operations, and then we also talk about investigations and support services. We see here that an equipment funding under patrol was moved to Bill 12 CIP, for equipment for speed trailers for Patrol District 1. Comments, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, on that? Okay, thank you very much. All right, okay, any comments, questions on page 16? Page 16. All right. Okay, next up, page 17, we all have the last in administrative services for HPD, along with HFD, Fire Administration, Fire Communications Center, Fire Prevention, and Mechanic Shop. Next, Chair recommends to accept the amendments on page 17.
Chair.
Okay, oh, sorry. We have Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you. For the first line item for HPD, I do see it there. It says increased funding for current expenses. You know, I did put in the administrative services line under Honolulu Police budget to put in money for incentives. And, you know, we had an open conversation. I was willing, as the admin came up and said they had enough, but specifically, let's talk real specific. Last year, you guys had between 60 and 70 guys come in as new uniformed officers. You're still short on dispatch. My concern is there a need for these incentives? Because again, we cannot go back to our communities and say, oh, shucks, we never put money in the budget because they never said they needed it, but really they needed it because, you know, as budget chair is doing, we are emphasizing and prioritizing public safety. So walk me through what an incentive program would look like in your mind as far as ununiformed as well as civil positions.
So the HPD administration is looking heavily into both a recruitment and a retention type incentive. All of us that live in Hawaii, we work and live in Hawaii, but the question remains is, can we really afford to live on this island? So a recruitment retention is looking at anywhere between, if feasible and open to it, a $10,000 to $15,000 signing bonus for those signing up either as a sworn police recruit officer or as a civilian hire. Civilian hires are just as important for our police department as well as the sworn. The police department cannot survive, like you said, Councilmember Tupola, without key necessary civilian employees, whether they're dispatchers, clerks, criminalists, vehicle maintenance type individuals. So from a hiring signing bonus, if feasible, we're looking at a 10 to 15 signing bonus with contingencies. When I say contingencies, it would mean so much at the time of their hire, so much at their time of their, say, probation being end, as well as a clause that, if feasible, you would have to stay with the police department for a duration of maybe 3 years or so. We cannot just pay people to sign up, and then we can't retain them as well. On the retention side, we're looking at a, say, possible service anniversary retention for every set amount of years. So if you reach 5 years within the fiscal year, or 10, 15, 20, 25, we would tear up as a one-time lump sum bonus, but it would cap off at, say, 25 years of service. If we can get this type of an agreement, it would be available not just for our sworn personnel, but as well as our civilian staff. Civilian staff, like I mentioned, very much needed to help the department move forward and survive.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. So, I calculated on the low end, if you guys are doing a $10,000 bonus, of which, I did list the council communication showing that other West Coast states right now are offering up to a $30,000 signing bonus. We're nowhere close to that right now. Also offering transfer incentives, $7,500 to transfer into their department, which we don't have either. So we are only speaking about the hiring incentive, because if you guys did a retainment incentive, you would have to collectively bargain that.
Correct.
So on the front end, if we're doing 10,000 and maybe 120 new officers, which is very optimistic, but if you were able to get that, and maybe 100 new civil service, that's like 2.2 million. I put in there 1.5 million for incentives, and I opined to the chair to reinstate that. I do think the department needs that, and it's not the full 2.2, but again, those were optimistic numbers. I think the 1.5 could go a long way. The last time I checked, you guys were at 398 vacancies. What are you at today?
We're about the same, 390. As of May 1st.
So we're very close to 400, which is not safe for our communities and not safe for the officers.
No, that's why Chief Logan is looking heavily into being competitive. And I hate to equate it to like an NBA free agency period, but we have to try remain as competitive as we can with our counterparts.
Understood. Thank you, Assistant Chief. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? I would like to bring up that administrative services for on page 17. I know it's not on there, but in the amendments, all right, I would like to clarify first off that under administrative services, under their vacancy funds, they have $1,675,868. And this proviso that Councilmember Tupola, would the members be open to at least adding the proviso relating to providing employee incentives? And then the amount can be discussed upon with the departments.
I'd support that, Chair.
Members?
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Oh, wait. Public Safety Chair Okimoto?
I guess I'd like to see where this goes further, because my concern is where the funding is coming from. I understand that Councilmember Tupola wants the incentives put in, but I haven't seen really where the money is coming from. So
right, now that's
if I could get further information on that, that would be really helpful, Chair.
That's a fair point.
Thank you.
Councilmember Tupola, in the last CD1 budget, they talked about how they can have incentives come in mainly from their patrol or within their own salaries from patrol or even chief of police. Have they shared with you if this administrative services is the best place for incentives?
So we did speak about that. Me and the assistant chief were working on this. Specifically, you know, we had suggested that they have funds for all of the new incoming officers, of which you guys actually didn't expend all of it because 60 is a very low number to be bringing in annually. But do you suggest to keep it in administrative services?
Yes, Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, so within there is because they didn't spend out a lot of it last year. I mean, honestly, we would hope more people would be interested in becoming an officer, but they really had very small recruit classes, some as small as 15, and of course, a lot of people peeling off. So you guys do have funds in there in the administrative services to do this, correct?
Correct.
So I do think the proviso would just allow them to use this for the incentives as they haven't expended all of their funds in previous years.
Okay, members, any other further discussion in support or even concern? Okay, Councilmember Say.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just a reporting mechanism for me. A reporting mechanism.
Reporting mechanism, that's a good point.
Because that way, this council knows how successful we were or we were not.
Okay, members, if you would give me a moment. This is actually in something that I want to say that the full council has talked about overall with DHR. If you remember during our CD1, I know our Council Chair Waters has dove deep in with DHR regarding employee incentives and whatnot. So as I know that we're mentioning this just for HPD, but I think reporting, I mean, like let's say we add this. I want to make sure that moving forward beyond this budget, that we are following up with the departments and DHR as a whole to follow up on such reporting mechanisms and whatnot. I will recommend adding a proviso. I will not be adding any money to this amendment, but just a proviso. And I would also like to figure out how to add a reporting mechanism, but ask that the committee chairs, sorry, I'm looking to you because this is regarding public safety, but even Councilmember Tolba, I know that I've already asked you to do a lot of things in your committee, but like all of us as committee chairs follow up with the different for reporting mechanisms on employee incentives, especially since we did just hear about that hiring program or work from home program to hopefully incentivize I mean, I guess more people to join the city. So anyway, my question to HPD is how regarding a reporting mechanism, how can HPD provide a reporting mechanism to the city administration and the council?
So the reporting mechanism, Calvin say, would be the amount of applications that we received. Was there an increase or decrease from the time if we can reach this type of deal? Not just for sworn hires, but civilian hires. We do work closely with our Department of Human Resources, but for some positions, such as our police recruit, police dispatcher, and certain HPD specific positions, DHR has graciously delegated that authority to us to recruit on our own. So like Chair Cordero mentioned, the city did participate in a Bloomberg project. I was one of many city cohorts. And in addition to a pay incentive, it's looking at alternative work schedules that can bring a better life balance to individuals. So I would say proper gauge or mechanism is to see how much people that actually applied, did that increase or decrease, as well as what is the retention of those that we hired throughout a extended period of time. Because several years ago, HPD, we've hired a record amount of people pre-pandemic, almost close to 200 recruits, but we have to work on how can we retain people. So it's not, one trick is to find out, can we recruit people to join? But the other aspect we have to measure is, can we retain who we hire?
Thank you. And I would like to also mention and bring us back to the CD1 meeting that we had. And I do want to thank Council Chair Waters, because from that discussion, I provided a provision for employee incentives. And of course, it was mainly for public safety departments, but also for use if necessary. However, it was rejected by the city administration and HPD, right? So I want to be able to get a clear distinction that if we support this and where it can be supportive, because everyone knows we need to hire, right? But if the council is saying, this is how we want to help, Chair Waters was telling DHR how we want to help, Councilmember Tupola is adding this proviso in to say we want to help. Everyone has said that. We just want to know where we can place this without it being rejected. And so, I mean, of course you can reject it all you want, but like we need to have action, and this is how we can show our support with our separation of powers here. So with that, for a reporting mechanism, that's a really good point, because that is something that I know Council Vice Chair Kiaina has brought up, looking at the data, the performance metrics, and how we're doing at the next fiscal year. Actually, Councilmember Okimoto brought that up. Saying where the money will come from, as well as how it's working out. So I will probably not be able to add it to this particular proviso, but at the end of the budget bill is where we can put particular provisos for reporting mechanisms by the city administration to discuss hiring and hiring, retention, and incentives. So members, I know that it's not on this page. I just wanted to share that because it hasn't only just been said for this particular division and department, but has been stated by all of the council members as priorities as well. Okay, so with that, for page 17, the chair would like to accept but amend, accept but amend the proviso for administrative services. How come I stop? I don't want to add any. Okay. Chair would like to call a quick recess, and then we'll finish page 17 and go into actual recess later. Recess subject to order of the chair. Chair would like to call the Committee on Budget back to order. I would like to accept the amendments on page 17, which includes administrative services, fire department administration, fire communication center, fire prevention, mechanic shop, and add the proviso for administrative services, at least 1.5 million out of current expenses shall be appropriate to provide employee incentives for administrative services. This, once again, does not add any additional funding to the budget, okay? I just want to make that clear. Okay, I do understand that we were talking about how we're still under fire department. So I know I said after page 17, but can we do after page 18, you guys? Because I did not check the last department, yeah? So we're gonna finish up with for HFD. And thank you all for your indulgence as I figured this out. Okay, page 18. Chair recommends to accept amendments on page 18. I have accepted amendments for training and research. Hold on, going back. Training and research. I would like to, huh? Oh, they're not here anymore? Okay, if the public safety chair has any comments on on the increases, or Council Chair Waters for any of this. Any comments on training and research, radio shop, fire operations, planning and development, fire commission, and city radio system?
Chair, I understand. I was just wondering, because I don't know if anybody from the department is here right now, so does that?
That's okay. I mean, I'll just accept it. You can just share.
Okay.
You can just share both Council Chair Waters and Councilmember Okimoto, because I didn't provide any restorations, but both of you.
Okay, real quick. Thank you so much. Basically, we restored them back to what they requested, is my understanding. So they're fully funded. Everything they asked for, you're recommending that we put it back. So that's great.
Okay.
Even though they're not here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, any questions on training and research, radio shop, fire operations, planning and development, fire commission, which is $742. $742 for fire commission, but then if you look at it, it's for $19,000, and then city radio system. Any comments or questions? Okay, members, before I would like to make the announcement for recess. Members, we will be recessing at 12:55 p.m. and we'll recess for about, what do we say, 30 minutes, 40 minutes? 35 minutes? Oh my gosh, hold on, I can't. Okay, I guess 35 minutes because easy, it's 12:35. So well, 1:30, we'll return back. We'll go back to page 19, starting with Department of Emergency Management. Chair would like to call this meeting to recess.